Hello everybody, I hope that you are doing fantastically well. Today I am presenting a subject that was recommended by one of my students. Thank you, Dario. And this is the books that I recommend for classical pianists. And before I made this video, I decided to do a little bit of research to see what other books other pianists recommend. And I realized this is such a niche topic that this doesn't really exist. I found one blog post on the internet recommending books for classical pianists, and hey, here I am. So I realized that this video doesn't apply to many people because I'm assuming one, you're a classical pianist, and two, you enjoy reading, and finally, number three, that you have time to read, right? Yes, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic and concerts are put on hold, but I know that you have a life. And for example, my days are filled with a lot of teaching and a lot of practicing. So if you clicked on the video, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope that you find this content interesting and useful. I'm going to be talking about books that discuss technique and performance practices, and finally to books that I simply find interesting. They might offer you a different perspective or certain insights about piano playing, but mostly they are an enjoyable read, especially if you are a classical musician, which I assume you are. Otherwise, why are you here, right? All right, let's get started with number one. The Art of Piano Playing by Neuhaus, which I actually have right here behind me. It's that top book. Heinrich Neuhaus, well, he's considered to be one of the best pedagogues of the 20th century, and he taught at the Moscow Conservatory from sometime in the 1920s to sometime in the 1960s. During his time at the Moscow Conservatory, Neuhaus taught many amazing pianists who we still admire today, and these names include, but are not limited to, Sviatoslav Richter, Emil Gilels, Boris Petrushansky, Radulupu, Elyse Virsaladze. I feel like I'm not pronouncing that correctly, I'm sorry. Yes, so he has this enormous legacy behind him, and his book, The Art of Piano Playing, is regarded as one of the most authoritative books on the subject. The book isn't exclusively on one topic. He covers everything from pedagogy to different aspects of technique and practicing, and finally to musicality. So it's really an all-encompassing, comprehensive book that I believe deserves a place on every classical pianist's bookshelf. Okay, book number two. Chopin, Pianist and Teacher as Seen by His Pupils, edited by Eigeldinger. How's that for a last name? So, to tell you the truth, when I came across this book for the first time a few years ago, I was unimpressed. I didn't find it interesting. I picked it up, I put it aside. So, you guys, don't be intimidated by its dryness and realize that it is a wealth of knowledge, and it is a great resource for every Chopin lover, every Chopin interpreter. One thing that really struck me in the book is the discussion of Chopin's approach to playing the piano, and it's speaking about a certain weightlessness and a supple motion of the wrist, which of course is covered much more comprehensively in the book. And when you read that, you're going to discover a whole different facet to interpreting Chopin's music. Okay, I am lumping together books 3 and 4 because they are on a similar, well, no, they're not on the same subject matter, but they're written in a similar style and they're by the same author. The two books are Interpreting Bach at the Keyboard and Interpreting Mozart at the Keyboard by the one and only Paul Badura-Skoda, and also his wife, Eva Badura-Skoda. And no, I do not recommend you read these books cover to cover unless you want to give yourself a headache. However, oh my goodness, I have never come across a resource, especially in Bach, that is so thorough about articulation and phrasing. If you, for example, are playing the 2 or 3 part inventions and you're asking yourself, do I play legato or staccato here? You look at this book by Badura-Skoda and you are going to find an answer that speaks to you. Anything written by Badura-Skoda I consider to be golden. He wrote an incredible number of articles, and he was also the editor of several different music scores by Schubert, Brahms, Chopin, etc. The list goes on and on and on. I don't think it's easy to come across these books, and I know they are quite costly. However, if you can afford it and you are focusing on either Bach or Mozart's music, consider it to be a very worthwhile investment. The whole point of reading these books is to try and get closer to the composer's truth so that you can better convey this to your audience. And that's precisely what Badura-Skoda does in these 2 books. I'm only going to be mentioning one biography here, and it's a big one. It's by Alan Walker, and it is on Chopin. Now, Alan Walker is a musicologist, and he has written several other books on various personalities in the classical music world. Similar to Badura-Skoda's books, this one is positively massive. Unless you are a fan of biographies, I wouldn't recommend reading it from cover to cover. However, you would be hard-pressed to find a resource that is more thorough and more engaging than Alan Walker's biography. Now I'm moving on to books that I simply find interesting in and of themselves. The first one here on the list is Great Pianists Speak for Themselves by Elyse Mach. This book is essentially a compilation of anthologies or interviews by some of the most famous and renowned pianists of the 20th century. On the cover here, I can see Horowitz, Arau, Elyse de la Rocha, Glenn Gould, Emile Gilels, Jorge Boulez, Rosalind Turek, all of these amazing and incredible names. So this book, rather than giving you concrete advice, goes into the lives of classical pianists. And by reading this book, you may find pieces of advice that help you. You might learn something by reading about Rosalind Turek's practicing routine, for example. You can learn about their experiences with nerves and performance. The second book is quite similar to this one, as it's on the same exact topic. It is Great Pianists on Piano Playing by James Francis Cooke. This is another one of my favorites. I've probably read it 3 times. It simply features tidbits from pianists who we all admire, including Godowsky, Anton Rubinstein, not Artur Rubinstein, although he's a great one as well, of course, Paderewski, Busoni, Hoffman, and many others. So if you can find a copy, do yourself a favor and get it. Of course, I have to mention Rough Ideas by Stephen Hough, which came out pretty recently. And it's essentially a collection of essays that Stephen wrote throughout the course of his life. I feel bad calling him by his first name as I don't know him personally. Each of the articles that Stephen Hough presents in his book are concise and to the point, meaning that if you don't have a lot of time, you can pick up the book, read for 5 minutes, and put it down, and you'll have learned something new. And Stephen Hough discusses big things like religion, finally to small details like pedaling or how to execute a trill properly. Next, I would like to mention Andrei Gavrilov's book, Andrei, Fira, and Pitch. So this is an autobiography, a memoir that details Andrei's life, including his relationship with the one and only Richter. This is a glimpse into Andrei's life and the incredible difficulties he faced as a performing artist. There were some moments in the book that I could hardly believe, and it shows you very plainly what life was like for a musician in the Soviet Union. One aspect that I really enjoyed in this book is that at the end of each chapter, Andrei included a little anecdote about each Chopin nocturne and what it means, right? The universe, the meaning, talking about music is hard. And it's very rewarding to see his own personal opinion of these beautiful pieces. Finally, last book is An Equal Music by Vikram, Seth. Yes, this is a book that stayed with me for a long time. Even the last sentence of the book, I won't give you any spoilers, it just hit me, right? Has that happened to you? Amazon describes it here as a powerful, unforgettable, and deeply romantic tale of two gifted musicians. So if that's your kind of thing, give it a shot. Thank you so much for watching my video. If there are any books that you would recommend for me that I didn't mention here, leave me a comment and let me know. Likewise, if you've read a book that I mentioned, whether you like it, you love it, or you didn't like it at all, let me know. I'd love to hear from you either way. Have a great one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.